Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. I made a video, a couple videos back, where I made the argument that college running back Leonard Fournette, who many people are projecting as a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, who guys like Herschel Walker, college legends, are openly saying, look, this guy is better than I was at his age. Right? Adrian Peterson was asked, who's a better back than Leonard Fournette? Peterson could only name one guy, himself. Right? My argument is the risk of injury is simply too great to play another season in football. Right? Fournette needs to think about his family. He needs to think about loved ones. He needs to think about himself. Right? Leonard, the fruits of your talent should accrue to you and your family. Right? Don't donate them, because that's what he'd be doing, to a university by risking it all by returning another year. Well, late last week, Colin Cowherd, who's now on Fox Sports, and let me say I have no affiliation to Fox Sports or Colin Cowherd. Right? I'm just pointing out a guy who keeps it real. So sports fans out there looking for real sports news and real interviews will know where to go. Colin Cowherd, who's now with Fox Sports, right? The name of his show is The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Interviewed one of the dominant football personnel guys of our time. You know the dominant football personnel guys, just follow the dynasties. Right? Cowherd sat down with the architect of the Cowboy dynasty back in the triplet era. Right? Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman. Cowherd sits down with Jimmy Johnson. Now the interview is noteworthy because Johnson's one of the best interviews in all of sports. Right? Johnson actually answers the questions. He doesn't have some corporate script or some corporate playbook where he's reading sponsor-friendly responses to dodge questions. No, he actually answers the questions. So, Jimmy, who of course was wildly successful as a college coach. Go back to the old Miami Hurricanes. Right? You'll notice Jimmy Johnson's on the sidelines. Right? Jimmy was a great college coach in addition to a multiple Super Bowl winning pro head coach. Right? Jimmy, while praising college, is asked point blank by Cowherd, who's one of the best interviewers out there. Is Leonard Fournette ready for the NFL? Would he succeed in the NFL right now? And Johnson says yes. Right? Keep in mind, Johnson also admits in the interview that one of his buddies, a guy who he meets with for several days on fishing trips every year to talk football, is another one of the dominant personnel guys in NFL history. He's the guy right now, Bill Belichick, the coach of the New England Patriots. Well, Cowherd presses deeper and asks another profound question. He says, hey, if Leonard Fournette sits out for a year, right, leaves school, trains with one of these big sports agency groups, right, if he sits out for a year rather than play for his university, would you frown upon that? Would that in any way have a negative impact on your evaluation of Fournette when it's your time to pick? And Jimmy Johnson, right, because this is the relevant question, Jimmy Johnson unequivocally says no. Right? It have no negative impact. Right? Because as Johnson puts it, you really have to go with the talent. Right? Somebody needs to get a copy of that podcast to Leonard Fournette. right? Don't blow out your knee like Marcus Lattimore did. And then have a bunch of alumni say, oh, you're still one of our favorites and stuff like that. Don't pay insurance premiums when you're the one who should be receiving payment. Understand, if he leaves school and signs with an agency group, there are things called signing bonuses. You don't have to get the signing bonus from the team. You could get it from your agent. Right? Signing bonuses that would enrich Fournette and his family. Why should he be paying an insurer? Shouldn't the agency group be paying for the insurance policy themselves? So, and let me point out too, these insurance policies, don't kid yourself. When there's an injury, there are questions. I've handled some insurance defense cases, right? I'm telling you, a lot of carriers will then say, well, does this injury fall under the coverage of our policy? Right? You don't want to deal with that. Let me also say too, we've set up what I view as a plantation system, where these student athletes have NCAA personnel scrutinizing their purchases, scrutinizing everything they do. Did you pay, son, for that pair of sneakers? Right? How did you afford that leather jacket? You can't even say things like, you know what, a friend of the family gave me this as a gift, because suddenly the transaction gets placed under a cloud. Somehow, we feel that this is acceptable, even though college football is really built on the backs of its superstar athletes. Right? Fournette needs to give Jadeveon Clowney a call privately. He needs to say, hey, Clowney, what was it really like that last year at South Carolina when Clowney was accused of being a malingerer? Right? Because Clowney, had an injury. There was some doubt on whether Clowney was going to play in certain games, and then everyone questioned his toughness. Right? Where's the upside for the athlete in coming back? Especially since, for personnel guys like Jimmy Johnson, there's no downside. Understand, the NFL is very competitive. Let's say you have some ridiculous team or a group of teams that are a little bit hesitant to pick a guy who stops out of school to protect their market value, to protect their financial future. Right? Let's say you have some booster from the school who owns the team, or you have an NFL owner who likes the idea of having an NCAA farm system that the NFL doesn't even have to pay for. Right? So that owner wants to protect this NCAA system, the one that doesn't pay superstar athletes like Leonard Fournette for the risk they're taking. Right? Let's say that team or a couple of teams bypass Leonard Fournette when he's eligible for the draft. Understand, you have other teams run by guys like Jimmy Johnson who want to win, who will step in and draft that player. More importantly, too, you're kidding yourself if you don't understand that a huge portion of the income that these athletes make are from sponsors, not even the NFL team. If Leonard Fournette is viewed as the next coming of Bo Jackson, who, by the way, in his hobby, right, in his football career, averaged more than 5 yards a carry, right? This is the same Bo Jackson who, of course, made the baseball all-star game and hit a mammoth home run in that game, right? If Leonard Fournette is viewed as the next Bo Jackson, the next Herschel Walker, the next, running back of that magnitude, the next Adrian Peterson, you're kidding yourself if you don't think that Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, if these companies aren't going to be out there actively bidding to sign him. So if I'm Leonard Fournette, really it comes down to, whose family am I going to enrich? Right? The family of the athletic director of the school that I play for? The family of the people who own the insurance company from whom I would have to pay big money for a policy just in case I'm injured? Think about it. The athlete's the one responsible for the payment. Or my family, the ones that raised me, the people who were down with me from day one, right? My background, the people in my life who've supported me and have made me the man I am, who have helped put me in the situation where I could even consider a pro football career. So for those looking for a great interview with a guy who knows football personnel. By the way, Jimmy Johnson is still, in my opinion, one of the dominant personnel guys in the sport of football. I can tell you I watch his pregame show, right? And when Jimmy starts talking about talent, I always make a note of it. Always. Because I know Jimmy is on it. I hope you give his interview with Colin Cowherd a look. It's one of the better interviews out there and talking about things. Let me say this too. Jimmy at one point is asked, right? Brandon Whedon, is he, the best passer Jimmy has seen? And Jimmy actually talks about the best passer he's seen. Now keep in mind, it's loaded because Jimmy used to be Dan Marino's former head coach. But Jimmy points out that another quarterback, Troy Aikman, was the guy he would pick. He talked about how Troy had a problem at first with the deep ball, but how Troy made adjustments. Then Jimmy throws out something that's loaded. He says that, a quarterback's decision making is really one of the most important criteria by which to judge that quarterback's pro potential. He goes further and says that he would rather have a mentally gifted quarterback who might not be gifted physically over a quarterback with more physical gifts who really doesn't have or hasn't mastered the mental component. Right? I'll say this. Right now, fans of the San Francisco 49ers should know exactly what he's talking about. As do, I'm sure, fans of the Denver Broncos. Right? Anyway, it's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. He's now on iHeartRadio and Fox Sports. It's an interview late last week with Jimmy Johnson. If you're a football handicapper, if you're a guy who bets on football, if you're a guy who plays in football fantasy leagues, it's well worth a listen. Somebody please get that podcast to Leonard Fournette. Thanks for stopping by.